Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be working on the clutch installation on the Corvette. And before we can get started on that project, we need to do a couple mods. The first one is going to be today's video, and today we're going to modify the slave cylinder that I ordered from GM. When I did the clutch job a couple years ago, a few products have come out since that will vastly improve the parts that we put in the car. Especially with the Corvette, the C6, C5, and C7, C5, C6, C7, these style Corvettes. You know, you guys are going to want to upgrade some of the hardware inside the clutch mechanism if you guys have a manual transmission. Now, I know this will work for the C5, C6. This would probably work with the C7, but you guys will have to check with the manufacturer. So what are we going to be doing today? Today we're going to be modifying the slave cylinder and getting rid of the stock style plastic support brace. You guys will see right here we have a new slave cylinder that we're going to be putting in the Corvette, and what we're going to be doing today is actually replacing the support brace that's inside of here. You guys won't be able to really see it, but it is inside of here, and what we're going to be replacing it with is this TIC Performance billet CNC machined aluminum support brace. The factory piece is plastic, and this piece is, you know, obviously billet aluminum from TIC. They're up in Mount Airy, North Carolina, not too far from here. I actually saw this at the Cook's Cruising a couple weeks ago, and I didn't know that this product existed. I think I'd seen it, but honestly I'd forgotten that they had made this. So I'll have a link to the video, the Cook's video above. And so I went home, looked up the part, found it online. It was about 60 bucks, give or take. Maybe it was 70, but if you guys look online, you can find various shops that will sell the same brace by TIC. And if you wait for Black Friday, it might even be on sale then. But bought this online, and we'll have the part number in the description below. So what we're going to be doing today is putting this brace inside this slave cylinder. And this shouldn't be too difficult, but let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, to get started, first thing we're going to do is remove the top bearing. If you guys just grab it, it slides right off. The second thing we're going to need to do is actually push down on the slave cylinder itself like this. And we're going to have to remove this metal upper ring. And you guys can see I'm actually going to might be able to pull out. There you go. There's the plastic brace that we're going to be replacing with the billet. But before we can do that, we actually need to remove this factory piece. There's this little machined ring right here. We need to get this out. So, alright, there you go. We got the spring out. Now they did say be very careful with not bending this piece. It's bent a little bit, but yeah, we'll be able to press that back in. That's fine. So what we're going to be replacing, if you guys can see, here is a plastic piece. They put a little bit of grease on the bottom here, but nothing much. We're going to be replacing this plastic piece with this billet piece. Let's get this open. So as you guys can see, we have the plastic piece. These are known to melt in high horsepower applications, and especially using aftermarket clutches. Here we're going to replace it with this billet piece, but before we do, we're going to load up the grease. I believe that we want to put some grease on the outer edge of the seal. That would make sense because it would ride up and down. Yeah, that would make sense. So I think we want to go on the outer edge. Alright guys, I have applied a thin coat of grease inside of the kind of rifled barrel. You guys can see there's a little bit of a machine groove inside of there. Maybe you can't see that, but there is one. And I just took some of my synthetic grease that I use on my axle parts and, you know, ball joints and suspension pieces. I just put that inside of there. Figured that would work. It's a synthetic grease that I used. And, yeah, it's mostly what I use on all of my suspension applications. So, just like I said, a real thin coat inside that. We're going to put the bearing onto the inside of the slave cylinder, as you guys can see. Then we'll press down and we'll get the billet bearing inside of the slave, and then you'll see that the grease is kind of coming off on the internal shaft, but that's fine. I'm actually not going to wipe that. Well, I'll wipe off the top. I wasn't going to leave it, but there might be too close tolerances on here. So we lubricated that with grease. Now we're going to put the retaining clip back on and simply just push it in. Alright guys, that wasn't that hard at all. So as you guys can see, we have replaced the plastic support with this billet piece. You guys can see from the side, this top hat, that is the billet. As you guys can see right there, that is the billet support. And then we replace the cap back on. So what we need to do next is get this green dust boot back onto the slave. So just press it in a little bit, kind of grab it. It's kind of what I'm having to do here. Almost have it. Alright, so about 3/4 of it. Alright. There you go. Clean your hands off again. So here you go guys, here's the finished product with the TIC Performance billet slave support. We greased it up like we showed you. And yeah, you put the billet support piece in there. Make sure your boot goes back on properly. Now we're ready to put this in the car. Almost. The next thing we need to do is actually put on the speed bleeder, which I already own. It's already in the car. So what you guys will do basically is take this off. Just grab yourself a wrench, adjustable wrench. Take this off, put the speed bleeder on, and that speed bleeder has a hose which you run up and through the car, and you guys will be able to see this random AN stainless line. This is actually the speed bleeder end. I just kind of have mine wrapped through there, going down, and I actually had it zip tied to the slave cylinder, and it goes off into the torque tube. Now you guys won't be able to see that just because we're not doing that install today, but when you guys are setting up your slave cylinder, get the TIC billet support brace. Also get the TIC Performance speed bleeder, and that'll be all the mods that you guys need to do for basically the slave cylinder. There's not really much else you guys can do to the stock style slave cylinder. Just put the speed bleeder in, put that billet support piece in, and that's about it. Otherwise, you can go aftermarket. I believe American Powertrain sells a slave cylinder setup. It's obviously a hydraulic slave cylinder setup. I believe, like I said, American Powertrain, I think they sell one. I think Tilton might make one. I'm just not sure. But, the stock setup, I've been fine with the over 600, 700 horsepower that we have. Maybe if you guys have 1500 horsepower and you're braking these things, maybe you want to go with an aftermarket setup, but so far we've had very good luck with the stock slave cylinder, so that's what we're going to stick with. Plus these aren't super expensive. I think mine was under 150 bucks, maybe 200 bucks. So that's going to be it. The next thing will be to take the car apart, get the drivetrain out, take the speed bleeder hose like I showed you, take that out, drop the drivetrain, and we'll get the stock clutch out and obviously bolt this slave cylinder in. That's going to be it for today's mods. I hope this gave you some information on improving the stock components, adding braces, billet parts where you can. I always believe, adding stuff like adding braces and stuff like this just will help these parts live longer and should hold up to what we're making. Like I said, with this E-Force blower, we're not making any crazy horsepower. That's just kind of my thought on this setup. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. Also, click the bell notification button down below. That way you guys know when I upload new content. If you want to help support the channel, click the links below. We're adding new merchandise kind of regularly now, and we've got new products in there. So thanks guys. Have a great one.